What I've been asked to discuss is the freedom of expression of environment, the barriers that are currently weighing down on freedom of expression, and then what is the future for community media in view of this. Now globally, I think if I have to speak on a global level, I think I'm going to be here all day, but what I think is most important is what is happening here in South Africa at the moment. What our mandate is basically to fight for freedom of expression, the right of access to information, which is crucial to the jobs that you all perform, and as well as to oppose any form of censorship, and obviously to defend that by taking up legal cases. Now, the current freedom of expression environment is an increasingly difficult environment, and in my view is an increasingly repressive environment. We've seen a number of attempts by the government to put in place restrictions. To mention a few, there's the Protection of Information Bill, which inhibits your flow of access to any information held by the state. The Protection of Personal Information Bill that's coming out at the moment, which is going to inhibit your ability to basically report on people in high places and their personal details. Then there's the Forms and Publications Amendment Bill, which I think is the biggest setback in media freedom at the moment, and has taken us, or is on the way in taking us back to a form or regime of regulatory censorship. Basically, if I can just highlight a few of the things, and this is obviously a barrier that act contains, which might impact upon you depending on your status, or has an indirect effect on you. For instance, if you are found guilty, or if you become aware of any contravention of the Act, you as a journalist, even if you have a suspicion of that happening, you are obliged to go and report it to the police. Can you imagine what that is going to have on your protection of sources and confidentiality and your ability to gather news and to give it to the public? So unfortunately that bill has already been signed into law. There are numerous provisions providing for pre-publication vetting by a state organ that is appointed by the minister in his sole discretion, which I don't think I need to go more into detail about that because it's self-explanatory and it's a huge crisis in my mind. So we need to go to court to actually undo what has been done. There has also been an attempt recently to try and get journalists to reveal their sources. And I'm sure all of you that is very dear to your hearts. Now, why is community media important to us? I think because it goes, in my mind, because it goes to the grassroots and goes to the actual issues of society and allows people to vent their views and get to the actual crux of what is happening here in South Africa. We've had a spate of violent protests, and I think that in allowing or empowering community media to be able to air the community's views, you also have a distilling effect on these violent protests, because people may be less inclined to pick up stones and go and take to the streets and damage property if they know that there's a forum where they can vent their views. In addition, I think just freedom of expression based, if we had to have all these barriers and clamps down, I mean the pursuit of truth, the advancement of individual autonomy, which is key, is going to be undermined. What I think we need to do in the future is to build capacity within the media, community media forums, to have a series of workshops where we can bolster the knowledge of all journalists as to what these issues are and how to deal with them themselves. That's part of FXI's mandate, and we've been doing it, and which we see is extremely successful. You mentioned Abutlali earlier. We have a series of protest workshops, which has empowered those structures to go and defend themselves. So I'm proposing that that's what we do, and that we network to try and get together on these issues to also oppose forms of censorship. For instance, the two major issues is gagging orders that have come up recently, where big corporates or government departments, local governments have taken community media radio stations as well as newspapers to court to interdict them from actually publishing. And these community media, they often don't have the money, obviously, to take up these issues. That's why FXI is there, so that we can assist. Also, the withdrawal of advertising, I don't think I have to go into the funding issues, but the withdrawal of advertising by these institutions on content-based grounds is proving to be a huge problem. And what we need is people to come forward and to say, this is our problem, this is what these people have done, so that we can take them to court and set some good precedents. Unfortunately, that I think is the only way that we can go about doing that. How's my 10 minutes going? A little while, but in wrapping up, I think that the community media is a very important factor, and FXI looks forward to assisting in breaking down those barriers. So if there are any questions, I mean, the panel I'm sure is here to answer.